In your time in the battalion, was there a turning point or an epiphany or maybe a crucible point where you said, you know, I'm going to go on to stay in the military, or where it was life changing? Was there anything that, or was it just all a summary of your experiences there and relationships that you built? What would you say?
No dramatic turning point or epiphany. I've seldom acknowledged this to anybody but Miss Rebecca, is that about 18 months into my 2-year time there, I was, for lack of a better term, a little bit bored. I didn't feel personally challenged. Certainly physical and, you know, just keeping up with the day-to-day was challenging, but I didn't feel intellectually as challenged as I'd like. So I was casting about mentally, didn't do anything about it, but was thinking, okay, what do I want to do for the remaining 2 years of my enlistment? Not that I had anything set on 2 years, but was thinking, do I want other experiences before I return to civilian life? And that's when I got a call out of the blue from our friends at Fort Bragg.
How did they find out about you?
Well, that's an interesting story, a little bit not complicated, but I was among 2 or 3 NCOs that was selected to go from the battalion TDY to phase 2 of the Special Forces qualification course, just the MOS producing portion. And that was a very interesting experience for me, because I really got to see some sophisticated isn't the right word, but some very thorough technical training led by some very, very fine NCOs. And I stood out there for whatever reason. And I think it was only 5 months later, I came out on a list that was provided to the unit founders in the communications MOS as having some decent scores and background. And 1 or 2 personalities knew me from that course and reached out to me.
So you were E6 by then?
Oh, no, I was still not even a 1 year in grade E5.
Wow. Fred, go ahead. Let's talk about values and competencies, if you would, Jim.
Sure. Jim, these fall in line with kind of what you were already talking about when Lawson kind of asked you with regard to how is trust in a unit developed, and you talked a lot about or mentioned some of these same values: selfless service and integrity and things like that. But of the values, of those 7 values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, can you just kind of opine on those and how important they were to what we did in the battalion, and maybe, you know, give us some insight from your perspective, how they were kind of massaged by the leadership. I think a lot of us came with those, but I think we all came away from there with much more strong values in that respect.
I think the one that comes out and to me stands out for me is the selfless service part. you mentioned that many of us came with those, with certainly a good grounding in the values, and that was certainly my case. But it being my initial duty assignment, seeing them embodied and exemplified in the rank and file as well as leaders is really what put them in the military context for me. And I venture to say that had I not had the experience and the embodiment of those values, again, none in particular, I'd have not chosen to stay in the Army. Personal courage is something I learned. I was never athletic or prone to do anything involving personal physical courage, and being in the battalion certainly helped me with that, and learned where it fits in the 7 values. I'm not sure, but learned thoroughness, completing a task, doing it in a manner that one can be proud of, and that we were driven to an extraordinary degree, I think, by not letting one's fellow soldiers down, which it has been something that's been a life lesson for me.